Okay, let's give it a second. Okay, all right. So, yeah, talking about government policies. So these are so far we have known, right? The fiscal policies, the monetary policies, and they are known as demand side policies because we are trying to change the aggregate demand in the economy in order to achieve some economic objectives, right? Yeah, do we have agreement on this, right? Yeah, so you can see the governments they're using contractionary policies or expansionary policies, when we are trying to talk about demand side policies. But when we are going to the next policy, which is supply side policies, there will not be any contractionary or expansionary policies here. Okay, we only have one direction. Okay, I'm not talking about that boy band. All right, there's only one direction. Is just expansionary. Okay, so whenever you are talking about supply side policies, you are trying to use the supply side to boost up the economy. All right. Okay, so there's no such thing as a contractionary supply side policies. Okay, we don't, yeah, that, no. All right. Okay, so there's only supply side policies. Yeah. Okay. All right. So so there you go. And when we talk about fiscal policies and monetary policies, we are always concerned. We always concerned about consumers' behavior, right? Yeah, because we are trying to change the aggregate demand to achieve something, right? Okay, so here you can see some examples like government when they are trying to increase their spending, right? So that the demand for goods and services they will be increased, right? So that's one way to boost up the economy. And at the same time, you can also use monetary policies. Okay, when you are trying to lower the interest rate, so that the private sectors they are more willing to borrow money for spending or investing into different stuff, right? So that's how you boost up the economy. Okay, and you also have the other way around for contractionary policies. So that's what demand side policies are. Okay, all right. But when we are talking about supply side policy, what do we what are we trying to achieve? What yeah. So what do we do to achieve the economic objectives when we are talking about supply side policies? What do you think, based on what the term gives you? So demand side policies, yeah, we're trying to change the demand, and supply side policy, yeah, we're trying to change the supply. But because we know there's no such thing as expansionary supply side policy or contractionary policy, so we can have this conclusion when we are using supply side policies, we are trying to increase the supply in order to achieve higher output, okay, in order to achieve economic growth, right? So that's supply side policies. Always remember this. Okay, supply side policy is always about boosting the economy. Okay, all right, yeah. Are we clear so far? Okay, all right, yeah, right. So supply side policy. There you go. And yeah, so now we are trying to change, or we are trying to use some tools in order to increase the producer's output. Okay, so there are so many policies that we can use in order to increase the producer's output. And here we are going to talk about all those tools one by one. All right, but before we talk about those tools, all right, let's think about this. Okay, so if we are using supply side policies, okay, let's think about the potential outcome. All right, so if you're using supply side policies in any markets, when you have more supply, what does it mean? What does it mean to you when there's more supply? So what will happen to the market? Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean, because right now we are trying to use supply side policies, right? But once we have used supply side policies, there will be some effects to the markets, and what could be the effects? You can think about your normal demand and supply curve, and you should be able to get some ideas. Anything? Are able to satisfy more demand. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. The quantity transacted increases. Yeah, that's very true as well. And the price will decrease. Yeah, right. So you can see some merits from supply side policies based on a very simple um, supply demand curve. Okay, all right. So you will see the quantity transacted of goods and services, they will be increased. At the same time, the price of those, the prices of those goods and services will be decreased. Okay, so when you are applying this into your price level, and which is your inflation, you can actually see when you're using supply side policies, it helps. Okay, it helps to reduce inflation level. Okay, so it's a good plan. Okay, it's a good policy, because whenever we are using demand side policies, when we are trying to boost up the economy, well, the output is going to increase, but at the same time, you can find yourself some trade-off, and that is inflation. But when you're using supply side policies, you are in a win-win situation. Okay, all right. Inflation is getting lower, and at the same time, the output is getting higher. All right, so that's what we can see from a normal demand and supply curve, and that can apply into this macro policy as well. Okay, all right, yeah, are we good? Yeah. So yeah, so that's very true. Okay, so you can further develop your answers. So when the prices of goods and services, they are getting cheaper, so more people, they are able to afford it. Okay, so when they are able to afford it, it encourages more economic activities, right? So at the end, you can see more potential output being created, and which is good for your economy, right? Yeah. Do you see the development from the points here? Okay. So yeah, when you are in the exam, so this is, yeah, once again, this is what you want to do. Okay, you want to keep elaborating your points. Okay, yeah, bit by bit. Okay, in order to create more potential marks. All right. Okay. So yeah, and we can say, okay, supply growth therefore is always good based on what I just told you. Okay, right, the win-win situation that we have. And now we are just going to discuss like what tools can we use to achieve that. Okay, so what tools can the government use in order to increase the general supply, the total supply in an economy? So this is what we want to know. Okay, all right. So any ideas if we are using supply side policies? Like what can a government do to increase the supply in general in our economy? Any thoughts? Oh, okay, all right. Subsidies. That's very good. Education and training. Okay, that's very good. Anything else that you believe if the government they do it, then the supply should be higher besides some spending and subsidies? Okay, increase accessibility of capital goods. Well, I think that would be uh, a kind of government spending. Yeah. So yeah, technology investment. Yeah, that's also very true. When people, yeah, you can elaborate your point right from there. Okay, I'm pretty sure from now on, yeah, you are able to elaborate. Yeah, once you have got more training and education and technology, yeah, what will happen to the producers? I think you all understand it by now. Okay, yeah, so that's innovation, that's technology investment, right? Right. Yeah. So that's very good. Okay, so these are the things that I would like to see. okay, from you guys, because these are the things that we have learned so far, okay, and these will be included in the supply side policies, right? So first, I'm gonna go through the things that you have shown me, and then I'll tell you something new, okay? Yeah, the new items that you can use in order to increase the supply. All right. Okay. So here is the list. All right. Here is the list of what you can do with supply side policies. So there are so many things that you can do with supply side policies. And for 1 to 3, so those are the things that you have learned already. Okay. Yeah. So you can talk about taxes. Yeah. If you are giving tax reductions, tax incentives to different people, you can actually boost up the supply as well. Well, not only the demand but also the supply. Okay, and also subsidies. Yeah, you guys mentioned about that, and investment on education, training, technologies. Yeah, they are very good. All right, so these 3, they are the things that we have learned so far, and we will talk about 4 to 7 very soon. Okay, so now right now you don't need to worry about them. All right, because we will go through each of them one by one. Okay, all right, so so don't worry about it. Okay. So let's get to the first one. Okay, so let's see how would you interpret. Okay, yeah, if we are using the first one here, yeah, trying to increase the supply. All right. So when you're using the first one, lowering the taxes. Okay, well we know what kind of taxes that we have, and can you tell me how they can achieve an increase in supply when you are trying to lower the income tax? Can somebody just think about it. So now if the government, they're trying to lower the income tax, why is it possible that the supply will be increased because of that? Yeah, I mean, take your time. More. Oh, okay, okay, all right, yeah, yeah. But when you are focusing on consumers, I would not use the word investment, okay, at this point, all right, even though is correct, okay, but in this curriculum, you would just want to make it very straightforward. Yeah, just say consumption will be more, right? Yeah, so that will be just fine. And production for firms are cheaper. Can you explain it, Sophie? Like, why, when you're lowering income tax, the production for firms are cheaper? Yeah, but the point is, it is the worker who pays for the income tax, not the company. So how do you justify that? Yeah, it's not the company who pays the income tax. It's just the employees. Well, yeah, there's corporate tax, but here we are trying to focus on income tax, um, and yeah. Well, but when you talk about corporate tax, yeah, that's true. Okay, that's true, right? Oh, okay, Ashley. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because you can also argue that, right, using the point from Ashley. Okay. Yeah, because when you have to pay higher tax, there's a higher tendency you will be asking for higher wages, and if they're lowering the income tax, most likely, the employees, they will not urge for higher wages, and that's saving some costs for some companies, right? Does it make sense? Okay, so there are so many points you can elaborate why lowering income tax can create this supply side effect. Okay, all right, yeah. So first of all, lowering the income tax, the disposable income is going to increase. People to spend more money, and at the end, when they spend more, when they choose to spend more, the firms they have to supply more, right? And that's why the output will be increased. And at the same time, when the firms the cost of production can be reduced because of the lower income tax, they can save some cost of production, and at the end they can supply more, right? So that's the second reason. And for the third reason, I can show it to you. The third reason is here. Okay. Well, you can also take it as a reference. So when you have lower income tax, you have more motivation. Okay, you have more motivation to work. All right, because we actually discussed about this. When the tax rate is being too high, all right, so people, they have less incentive to work. Okay, they have less incentive to make output. All right, and that's bad, for the supply side. And if you are lowering the income tax, you are giving motivation to more people, so that they can put themselves into the labor force, and more employment will be created. And because of the motivation, they have higher productivity, and that's how you create a higher output. So so you can also use this point as well. All right, so there are 3 points that you can use from just one idea. Okay, just one idea here. All right, so make sure you can elaborate all of them. Okay, you can elaborate all of them. Right, I'm not gonna show you the first 2 here in the PowerPoint, but you should be able to get that idea based on what you have learned so far. All right, okay, so that's income tax. And for corporate tax, it's just like what Sophie said. Okay, yeah, because when the companies they earn profits, they pay corporate tax. Okay, but now when you're lowering the corporate tax, they're actually earning more profits. Okay, they're actually earning more profits because corporate tax is just one of the costs of production. All right, so now they're earning more profits. They can put more money back to investing more other stuff, and at the end, possibly the output will be increased. All right, yeah. So that's very good. And don't forget, not only it will help the existing firms, it is also encouraging the new businesses to establish themselves. Okay, all right. So you can split this point into 2 parts. You can talk about the existing firms, and you can also talk about the new firms. All right, you're giving more encouragement to the new firms to set up. Right. Okay. All right. So there you go. So those are the 2 indirect taxes that you can talk about, all right? So that the supply side policy is working, all right? So you will see more output because of all the decisions made here, okay? All right. But do we have something we got left? So besides direct tax, what else can we lower? Yeah, what else can we lower besides direct tax? Yeah, we can also lower indirect tax, but what is the benefit? Why, when we are lowering the indirect tax, the firms that are able to produce more? Yeah, come on, guys. Yeah, feel free to join in. All right. Yeah, I don't always like to ask like people's name, right? So less tax on products. Okay. All right. Can the others keep elaborating that point? Yeah, you can go. You can go further. Okay, so less tax on products. What will happen after that? Yeah, you can think about what will happen to the producers, what will happen to the consumers. Anything, guys. Okay, all right. Yeah, I think Edward has the most precise answer here. Okay, so when you think about the diagram, that you know how to draw that diagram, and you see when there's tax, when there is an indirect tax, when there's an indirect tax imposed to a good, okay, most likely the consumers, they will take part of the burden, and the producer, they will also take part of the burden. Okay, so when we lower an indirect tax, we are actually lower the cost of production from the firms. Okay, right? Because the tax burden from the producer is getting lower. All right, and at the same time, for the consumers, they are paying less tax burden, and which is good. Okay, because it's getting cheaper. All right, so yeah, it's very good. Okay, so you can talk about from the producer perspective and also the consumer perspective. Okay, yeah, but now when we are trying to focus on a supply side policy, of course we want to focus on the supply side. All right, but both of them, they can affect the supply side, because when you can imagine when there's less tax burden for the consumers, they would be more or less buying more, spending more, because now things are getting cheaper, right? So at the end, it will come back to the supply side. The supply side will go up. Okay, so you will see more output. All right. So at the same time, within the companies, the production costs are getting lower. They will produce more, right? Okay. So yeah, you can see just one item here. You can elaborate so much. All right. So when the question is asking for supply side policy, possibly if you can fully elaborate one tool that they can use, you should be able to get most of the marks from that side, right? That side. So don't forget, all right? Don't forget to use this kind of explaining method, all right? So you try to split things in little bits, all right? So that once again you can maximize your potential score. All right, yeah, okay. So there you go, right? So lowering taxes definitely will help increase the output. Okay, all right. Any questions from the first tool here? Yeah, anything. Yeah, anything. Come on, guys. Yeah, if you are confused with anything here, feel free to ask. You all right? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Let's move on then. Okay, because there's nothing new here. Right. So yeah, and you can also talk about subsidies. Right. Okay. So here for subsidies, I'm gonna let you to elaborate. Okay. So how do you think subsidies can help increase the supply? People, can you put the little bits into the chat so that I can see if you have learned something from reviewing the mock exam? Yeah, come on, just show me different bits, right? Yeah, just keep typing. Okay, yeah, from the beginning to the end. Okay, all right. Reducing a production cost for firms. All right, yeah. Come on, someone else. Continue. Okay, all right. Yeah, encourage firms to produce more. Well, that's the end result, Chloe. Yeah, because in the middle you still have something. Okay, you still have something, so that it encourages firms to produce more. Okay, price decreases, and consumers, they consume more, and output therefore increases. Okay, so they can invest in other aspects of firms, and the output can be further increased. That's very good. Okay, so that's the entire flow that I would like to see in your next quiz or in your next assessment. All right. Okay, so always remember to explain your way, like what you see in the chat. Okay, all right. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, so here I'm just gonna show it to you. All right, because they are exactly what you have told me. Okay, so take a look off the screen and see if there's any difference. No, there's nothing different here. Yeah, there's nothing different here. Okay. Besides here, all right. So now you can also think about, it's not only for the existing firms, it's also for the new firms as well. All right. Okay. So from now on, you can also discuss about the new firms when there's a incentive, tax incentive, or when there's a subsidy. It's not only helping the existing firms, it's also helping the new firms as well. All right, because they can see the benefits and they're more keen to start up a business because of that. So output is gonna increase. All right, yeah. But when you look at the general flow here, you can tell is exactly the same as what you have given in the answer. Okay, all right. So there's one more point: lower barriers to entry in existing markets. Well, yeah. So that's gonna be another tool that we can use later on. Okay, so that's very good. All right, we are trying to increase the competition. Okay, so that there will be more output. All right. Yeah, you can imagine if there's only one firm in the market. Yeah, what will happen to the output? Yeah, or when you have more competition. Yeah, what will happen to the output? So yeah, we were trying to find some way to lower the barriers to entry so that there's more competition. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay. Yeah, so subsidies here, they're very important as well. Okay, tax incentives, subsidies, they can all increase the output. All right. Yeah. So let's move on. And I would say improving education, training, and technology. Well, they are basically they could be some byproducts from having subsidies. Okay, because from your answers you can see when the firms they are more able to earn higher profits, they can spend more into skills, trainings, education, and R&D. Okay, and that because they know if you are able to increase those areas, you can make an even higher potential growth. All right. Okay. So yeah, those are very important, and that is why as a government, you can actually help firms to have better education, better training, and also technology. So any methods you would suggest the government they can use to promote better education, training, and technology, besides subsidizing those areas. So besides subsidizing those areas, what else do you think the government can do to promote those areas? Oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's creative. Yeah, like some sort of competition. Yeah, right. For the promotion of such thing. Yeah, to encourage people to compete and try to come up with better ideas. Yeah, that's so true. Training centers, more schools, etc. Yeah, those are some very good points. Okay, all right. Yeah, you're trying to provide more facilities for people to get educated, to get trained, to be able to engage in more R&D. That's very important. Okay, all right. Or you can just directly provide those services to different people, right? In order to improve those areas. Okay, all right. So one question here: if the firms, okay, they're able to get better education, if the people they can get better education, training, or technology, what will happen to your PPC curve? Okay, yeah, PPC extends outwards. All right. Can you tell me why the PPC will shift to the right? So the reason why, yeah, what's the reason why the PPC is shifting to the right? Okay, all right. Quality of the factors of production, not the products. Okay, yeah, the quality of factors of production increase. All right, yeah, so that's very good. That's very good. Okay, yeah, that's very good. Yeah, yeah, I'm just trying to see if you still remember what you have learned from the mock exam. Okay, yeah, but here, not bad. Okay, not bad at all. All right. Yeah, so good job, guys. So from there you can see, right, and that's why you can increase the output. Okay, because from the PPC you can actually see the output is increasing for sure. All right. Yeah, because people they are getting more productive. Okay, talking about the productivity. All right. So when we are trying to elaborate this point, okay, look at the screen. Those points, they're the same points at what you have learned so far. Okay, all right, yeah. Except you have to incorporate the things that we just talk about. The quality of factors of production increases, and therefore, the productivity is going up. Things getting more efficient. Output is going even further. Okay, all right, yeah. Do you get it? All right. Does it make sense to you? Yeah. So far we are not learning anything new. Okay, we're just using the existing points that we have to create this theory here. Okay, all right. So some tools, they can provide both demand side and supply side effects. And the first three items that we talk about, they are the ones, okay, that can create both demand side and supply side effects. Okay, all right. Any questions so far? Anything? Any confusions? So you can imagine when you are being asked a question about supply side policy, you can write so much about supply side. Yeah, there's so much you can write about. Okay, all right, and make sure don't skip steps. Okay, don't skip steps. Try to make it as detailed as possible. Yeah, it's like I've been repeating myself for so many times, but yeah, it's never enough. All right, because every time after I said it, yeah, people they still skip steps. Okay, right. Yeah, so I guess I'm just going to keep reminding people. All right. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. The first three. Yeah. And well, let's move on then. Yeah. Let's move on then. Let's move on to something we haven't heard about. Okay. Talking about labor market reform. So you are trying to reform the labor market in this case, right? So finally we have something new. Okay. So pay attention, guys. Labor market reform. So how do we reform the labor market, so that there will be higher output? So this is what we want to think about. And we will look at three items here. Okay, we will look at some government welfare, particularly the unemployment benefits, and we will look at a trade union, and also we will look at some legislation like minimum wages. Okay, so what do you think we can do to those items in order to increase the output in general? Any thoughts? Yeah, it doesn't really matter if you got it right or wrong. Yeah, I just want you to think about it. So when you try to focus on those three items, what do you think? Yeah, we can do to those three items in order to create higher output. But why should we reduce the government welfare? Why? I mean, why? Like, why should we lower the minimum wage? Why should we reduce the government welfare? Why should we lower minimum wage? You need to justify your answers. Yeah, come on. Okay, we have some divergence here. All right, so one said, okay, we should lower the minimum wage, and another one said, okay, there should be minimum wage because it motivates employees to work better and work harder, so there will be more productivity. Um, so less incentive to be unemployed. So force them to get employed. Okay, honestly, both work. Depends on how extreme both sides are. Yeah. Sophie, I think you had a very good point. Yeah, you had a very good point. And I believe this is how you can argue, okay, your point whenever you are talking about something like minimum wage. Is minimum wage good or bad? All right. Yeah, you may see that in your exam for your discussion question. Is minimum wage always good for the society? That's one question, and you need to find the both-sided argument. And here, right, you can actually see the both side argument from the chat. So lower minimum wage, less production costs for firms, but workers may be dissatisfied. Yeah. So this is literally the reason why poor people are. Well. You see here, it could be. All right. Sometimes it's all about trade-off. Okay, guys. I think those are very good arguments. You can actually argue with minimum wages. People they are more motivated, and that's why they can be more productive. And at the end, the output is going up. That's so true. But at the same time, when you look at things realistically, okay, realistically, all right, yeah, when you draw yourself a diagram, okay, when you draw yourself a minimum wage diagram, you will see some answers. Okay, part of it is when you are lower the minimum wage, there will be less production costs for firms, and it encourages the firms to produce more. That's so true. Okay, so at the end you can get a very good overall result, and which is a good economic growth, even though the employees may be exploited because of this policy here. Okay, so it's all about trade-off. But do you guys know how to draw a minimum wage diagram? How do we draw it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all about trade-off. At the end, it's all up to the politicians. Yeah, their first intention, their very first intention, and that determines whether the economy will be better off, or the people, the well-being of the people will be better off. Yeah, but about the minimum wage diagram, anyone who knows how to draw it, or anyone who knows what diagram you should use for your minimum wage concept? Yeah, Ryan. Yeah. That's right. Okay. So yeah. So that's right, guys. When you are using when you're trying to explain minimum wage, you can just use the diagram of a price floor. Okay, for explanation, because you're trying to show the same thing. All right. Yeah. So from the price floor, that diagram, you can see some insights. Okay, from there. Well, let me just quickly draw it for you. Just give me a second. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the screen here, so now we can change the price into something else. We can change it to wages. Okay, and for Q, you can talk about Q of labor. All right. Yeah. Well, and the rest, they are the same. You have your demand curve for labor, and you have your supply curve for labor. All right. Yeah. So when you are having minimum wages, which means that originally in the market, the market wage could be too low. Okay, so here P1 for the market wages could be too low. All right, yeah, and that's why some trade unions or some agencies, they would they would come up to you and say, all right, yeah, we need to have some negotiation, because people, they're not living a better life, yeah, based on the market wages. And at the end, after the negotiation, people, they decided, all right, there should be a minimum wages. Okay, the minimum wages, suppose that, okay, suppose that the minimum wages should be above the market wages. Okay, so let's put it here. Okay, all right, so let's call that P2. Right, so that's how you make it effective, right? Yeah. But you can see the effect from the minimum wage here. Well, let's call that here minimum wages. Okay. Yeah. So once the government they have put a minimum wage on a particular industry, or on all industries, you will see some effects directly. Okay. So look at the demand for labor. The demand for labor, so here, is actually going down from Q1 to Q2. All right, and the supply of the labor, which is us, is increasing from Q1 to Q3. So at the end, there's a very direct effect we can see from here, is that there's a surplus of workers in the market. All right, it means there are so many people that who wants to get a job but who cannot get a job. All right, okay, well, it's the same concept, but you're applying it into the labor this time. Okay, so from here you can tell why this is the case, because once the price is getting higher for the wages, the firms, the cost of production are getting higher, so they need less quantity of labor. Okay, they would fire some labor because they want to cut costs. Okay, so at the end, right, so the demand for labor is going down. Okay, but you cannot ignore the fact that when the workers they see the wages now is getting higher, they have more incentive to get themselves into the labor force. Okay, so there'll be more incentive for the laborers for the labor to find a job, for the labor to find a job. Okay, and that when you put two together, then you will see this ultimate result, a surplus. Okay, all right, yeah. So that's how we can explain it realistically. Okay, realistically, minimum wage is not helping. It's not helping a society to create more output, because at the end you can see the output is actually Q2 is even lower than Q1. Okay, all right. Does it make sense? Yeah, right. Okay, so it will be better if the government they can lower the minimum wage so that the output can go back to the equilibrium position, which means that the output is increasing. Okay, all right. Yeah. Do you see that? Do you see that? All right. Yeah. So there you go. So that's the concept. All right. Any questions from here? So you see, it's always good to explain things using a diagram, even though it's not always the requirement from the GCSE curriculum. But once you pass, GCSE and go to a higher level, then from there onwards, you always need to use your diagram to support your explanation and discussion. So it is always a good habit when you can develop the way that when you're explaining things, you use a diagram for that. Okay, all right, yeah. Well, that's true, Ryan. I think that's true. Okay, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off between. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna type it in the chat. There you go. Yeah, so this is one of the major topics the economists they always discuss. Yeah, so should we have more equity or should we have more efficiency? Yeah, it seems like they are always enemies. Okay, you cannot always find both of them together, standing on the same level. Right, so that's one topic that we would discuss a lot later on. Yeah, I mean not in this curriculum. Yeah, but yeah. Right. Okay. So there you go, and hopefully you get the idea. All right, so that's why we will definitely reduce a minimum wage if we are trying to increase the output realistically. Okay, even though the argument from Sophie is also correct. All right, yeah, and about the unemployment benefits, Edward had a good point. Okay, because we all understand that when people they get more unemployment benefits, they have less motivation to go find a job, and if less people they are finding jobs, there'll be less output for sure. Okay, so we just have to get more realistic. Okay, so we try to lower the unemployment benefits, even though it may be a bad thing to people who really need unemployment benefits, but you are forcing them. Okay, so now you have to, you know, yeah, get up and find yourself a job. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna be starving. All right, yeah. So there you go, and yeah, you see here the points. Okay, but you can also find some potential problems from here. Okay, all right. Yeah, if you do that, the efficiency is getting higher. But when you talk about the equity, the income equity, okay, income equality, is going to be bad, all right, because you see higher poverty in those lower income levels. Okay, all right, yeah, when you are trying to pursue higher efficiency, all right, higher output, yeah, you will definitely see some problems. Okay, and for trade union is you basically have this very similar idea for trade union. Okay, all right. So because we all know trade union, they always bargain for higher wages, and at the end, when they're able to bargain for a higher wage, that wage is already above the market wage, and what will happen when the wage is about the market wage from now on, based on that diagram that you have seen. Okay, all right. So if we can lower the power of trade union, which means they have less power to bargain for higher wages, and that's how we create higher output. Okay, all right, because the cost of production are getting lower, and people they would be more willing to produce more, so that output is going up. Okay, but you can still see some problems from the both items here. All right, so at the end, exploitation, okay, and poverty is going up. All right, so if you talk about equity, this item here is not very good. Okay, this is one very realistic item. Okay, you're trying to improve the output, but what is the cost? The cost is the people's well-being. Okay, all right, and well, you never know if it is really working. Yeah, maybe at the end it's not really working, but at the same time, you see higher poverty and also higher worker exploitation. You never know. Okay, so yeah, it's just a suggestion. All right, from supply side policy. There's nothing as a guarantee in supply side policy that it will work. No, not really. Okay, all right. So that's the fourth item that we will look at. Okay, labor market reform. Yeah, we're just trying to become more realistic. Okay, yeah, try to get things more efficient, right? Yeah, we're trying to get back to that market equilibrium, so that the resources, they are allocated in a more efficient manner. Any questions so far here? Do you get it? Do you get this point here? Anyone needs further explanation? Yeah, I mean, this point here could sound a little weird to some people. Like why would you do that? But once you can see the trade-off, things will become more understandable. Okay, all right. Yeah, so you may ask, why would the government do that when they see a poverty can go higher, or the workers, they could be exploited even more. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so for so many times when we are living in this society, um, we see we yeah we see something that we would say, okay, that's black and white. Okay, that's some black and white issue, like if we should help the society to reduce the poverty, should we help the society to reduce the worker exploitation. But at the end, it's not really that much of a black and white issue, because there are so many other factors that we have to consider. Okay, yeah, just because the politicians, they are trying to make some decisions, and those decisions are hurting the well-being of the people, it may not mean that the politicians, they are doing a bad job. Okay, maybe they are aiming for something else. Okay, maybe they're aiming for better efficiency. Okay, so from now on, before we judge how the politicians they act, I think we need to be more considerate. Okay, yeah, be more, yeah, to show more critical thinking, and before we make a judgment on a particular person, whether or not that politician is doing a good job, or whether or not that governor is doing a good job, because there are so many different factors, right? Yeah, external factors, when we are looking at just one item here. Yeah, right. Okay, so guys, just keep observing, and keep thinking, and that's the essence of learning economics. All right, yeah, I think I'm going to stop it here. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here. All right, yeah, because we have learned 4 items. 3 of them, they are old items, and just this one here is very new to us. Okay, yeah, so if you have some free time, go back and digest some of the points. And also, don't forget, not only the points here in the PowerPoint are important. The things that you have contributed in the chat, they are extremely important as well. Okay, because I cannot put everything in the PowerPoint. All right, it's supposed to be concise and simple. All right, so the things that you have contributed, they are very useful and practical as well. Okay, so go ahead and scroll up and down in the chat and look at people's contribution. They did some very good job. Okay, all right, yeah. Any questions before we go? Yeah, I mean, anything regarding the contents that we have, or a little bit outside of the contents, yeah, is all right. If you have any concerns, or yeah, questions. Okay, I guess so far so good. Well, a quantitative easing. Well, Edward, I don't think we are gonna talk about it in this curriculum, because well, I would like to talk about that, but we are in a hurry, and that's why, yeah, I would rather focus more on the curriculum. Yeah, I mean, you can see, because of the schedule that we have, we are losing lesson time day by day. Okay, because of the COVID. Yeah, COVID is super annoying. All right, and yeah, I hope you all understand that. Yeah, that thing is really annoying, and I have no idea when this is going to be over. Hopefully, you guys will be able to do your exam. I really hope you guys can do your exam. All right, because otherwise, I can see some enormous um, disadvantages that will give you. Okay, because of no exam. All right, yeah. So let's put our fingers crossed, and hope there's an exam. All right, okay, guys. If there's no more question, I think I'm gonna let you have your lunch. Okay. Chivers and Aiden, please don't forget to upload the scanned copies, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Okay. Bye, guys. Okay. All right.